Hi, everyone. Um, Hope you're all well. I'm not live. Hi, everyone. Okay, I'm live on Facebook. This is Rabbi Shmuley podcast. Welcome, everybody. And another convulsion for the United States of America. As I speak right now, United States House of Representatives is voting to impeach President Donald J. Trump for the second time. Let me just look at this for a moment. I've already said this morning for those of you who watched my daily video that this impeachment is really not what the country needs at this point. I'll tell you why. Because President Trump brought so much damage to his legacy with the riotous assault by his supporters on the Capitol last week that there's no need for another kind of censure. They're not voting to impeach to remove him from office. His administration ends in 7 days. And the Senate is not going to reconvene until January 19th. This is just like a super censure motion. It's to censure the president. He's been more than censored. His brand has been damaged, maybe irreversibly. The New York City has canceled the contracts with this company. I mean, he's been censored severely. But what I want to talk about, so it's just a waste. And the country needs really to focus on healing and being united. And I just don't understand why the Democratic Party is even doing this. I understand that the riots were an American abomination. I understand they were a direct threat to our democracy. I understand that they were a direct assault on our democracy. But we really need to heal and move on. And since this has no practical effect, and since the president's leaving office, and since he's already been impeached once, impeaching a second time almost trivializes it. It's almost like every time they have a major issue with Trump, no matter how serious that issue is, they're just going to impeach him when there's only days left in his administration. So let me just tell you, but I want to focus on something else. What I want to focus on is how you're never a loser until you make yourself into one. And I'm speaking specifically to how the president saw himself. The president did not want to lose re-election. Anyone can understand that. Every politician, every leader fights hard to be reelected, to be re-embraced by the people. No one wants to have their term as president cut short after just one term. They want to be two-term presidents. Franklin Roosevelt was a four-term president. But even if you lose re-election, it doesn't mean that you're a loser. You could achieve so many things in 4 years, even if you're voted out by the country, in the same way that you can achieve nothing in 8 years. There's plenty of 8-year presidents, two-term presidencies that were utterly forgettable. And then there were one-term presidencies that were beyond remarkable. The greatest president in American history was, of course, Abraham Lincoln. Yes, he was elected to a second term, but he was murdered 1 month into a second term. He was really a one-term president. Look what he achieved in one term. In one term, he saved the Union. He liberated the slaves. He saved the country. I could go on with all of Lincoln's accomplishments, but saving the United States and freeing slavery, of course, being the two greatest, with freeing the slaves being the greatest of them all, the Emancipation Proclamation. He was a one-term president. Yes, again, I said he was reelected, but he didn't serve a second term. Andrew Johnson, who was an abysmal president, served his second term. President Trump was not a loser when he lost the election. He's someone that lost an election. It doesn't make you into a loser. He had substantial and remarkable achievements under his belt. I'll just list them for all of you who hate his guts and don't want to give him any credit. He took us out of the Iran deal, which was going to give $150 billion to murderers who hang gay men and LGBTQ men and women from cranes in city squares and stones women to death. He defeated ISIS. He reshaped the Middle East with peace treaties between Israel and Morocco, Sudan, Bahrain, Morocco, the UAE. He recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, something that the Congress had voted to do in 1994, and it was never implemented because presidents kept on invoking a get out of this commitment clause. He strengthen America's foremost ally, not just in the Middle East, but Israel is a technological superpower and an intelligence superpower that the United States relies on so much to thwart terrorism, etc. He strengthened the U.S.-Israel alliance like never before. In his term, the stock market went through the roof over and over again, vastly increasing the value of American companies. And incredible returns for American investment. And that means everyday people, not just the billionaire class. It means the pension funds. It means all of the mom and pops who are investing in the stock market went through the roof. He developed, with Operation Warp Speed, the COVID-19 vaccines that are now saving lives around the world. The Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna vaccine. It wasn't until the president saw himself as a complete loser for having lost the election to Joe Biden. Let's make no mistake, the president lost the election to Joe Biden. Let's stop the fraudulent claims that he did not. But that's okay. I've lost things in my life. That didn't make me a loser unless I saw myself as a loser. It wasn't until the president saw himself as a loser amidst all these very significant achievements in one term that he undermined his own legacy. And that's what's so sad. It's a lesson for all of us as well. Just because you lose a contest or lose a sporting competition or lose money in the stock market or invest money in a business and lose that money or get married and you end up divorced, you lose the relationship, does not make you into a loser. It's how you rebound from it. It's how you see yourself in the midst of that loss. That will determine whether or not you were a loser. The president could easily have gotten up and said, look, I wanted to win the election. I fought hard to win the election. And if he felt like he didn't want to, that the loss was too painful, he could easily have said, look, I lost fair and square. But having said that, no president could have won re-election during a global pandemic. People were going to want some new blood to deal with a global pandemic. But look at all the things that I achieved. I was a disruptor. I shook both parties to drain the swamp more. Not that the Trump administration didn't have some swampy things, unfortunately, but he did drain the swamp a lot from a lot of what was happening before. The president could have taken just pride in so many of his achievements. I mean, what he did in the Middle East is Nobel Peace grade peacemaking. He reshaped the Middle East. These are the first peace agreements between Israel and its neighbors in a quarter of a century, since the Jordanian peace treaty. But even that was a freezing cold peace treaty. Camp David Accords with Israel and Egypt, freezing cold peace treaty. These are warm peaces. This is real peace. The president could have taken so much pride, even just defeating ISIS. It's amazing. Look at how President Obama struggled to defeat ISIS. President Trump could have taken pride in having fought Bashar al-Assad for killing Islamic children and standing up for Islamic life, Arab life. There were so many things he could have taken pride in, but instead he focused on how he had lost to Biden, became obsessed with his loss until this mob was summoned, they attacked the Capitol, and now Trump has undermined his legacy, and it's such a shame. And it's because he saw himself as a loser when he wasn't a loser. Losing an election doesn't make you into a loser. In the same way that winning an election doesn't make you into a winner. Look, as I said before, look at how many two-term American presidents were utterly forgettable. By the way, look at how many presidents in general were utterly forgettable. It's just remarkable that the president saw himself that way, and now, what a shame. We have the abomination of the attack of the assault on the Capitol, and no one should excuse it. Read my article about that. No one should excuse it. President Trump should not have said what he said to his supporters, and I'm someone who's grateful to the president for everything he's done for the Jewish people in Israel. It pains me to have to call him out on this, but I have to call him out on this, as do all of us. It was when he saw himself as a loser that they had this stupid rally to protest an election that he lost, that he had challenged in the courts, and he lost the challenges. But he saw himself as a loser, and he couldn't live with it. So he kept on going on and on, becoming obsessed with how I really won the election, when really, even 4 more years, who knows what would have happened in those four more years. Trump had a lot of accomplishments in the first 4 years. And for loser. Like I said, losing an election, you could lose a gold medal in the Olympics and still be the winner. You could be the person who's most acclaimed, providing the most inspiration. You could make more history. I could go on. History is filled with stories of people who lost an election or lost a contest or lost competition or lost all their money or lost their marriage and still went on to the most incredible things ever. Just as it's filled with the lists of emperors and kings and presidents who achieved nothing, and who are only remembered by their name or by the fact that they served at all, but they didn't achieve much. Let me repeat, you're not a loser until you see yourself as such. And that's the tragedy of everything that's happened over the past week. We've seen, of course, the biggest tragedy about the Capitol riots was the innocent lives. A police officer murdered. And then Trump supporters killed and died for what? To protest an election that was free and fair? For what? For the president to undermine his own legacy? For the president to alienate a lot of people who are grateful to him for defeating ISIS, for creating peace in the Middle East, for Operation Warp Speed and the coronavirus vaccine, all those things which people are grateful for, amidst all the other things they may have disagreed with. You're not a loser until you see yourself as such. Well, my friends, look at the price that we're all paying. Look at the price that the president's paying. It just goes to show you that we all have to look at ourselves very differently. Okay, I'd love to see your comments. God bless you all.